Joining us on the Boardwalk Honda hotline is Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Iyer. He's been keeping up with the Kirk Cousins situation as, by the way, Kirk Cousins is in Minnesota, and Alex Smith just got traded to the Washington Redskins. We'll get into that as well as Super Bowl 52 as Vinny is on the ground. Vinny, how you doing today?
Good. How's it going, guys?
Doing pretty good. So, first of all, let's start with Kirk Cousins. We know he's out there. He's pictures of him at the Shake Shack. He told a couple of New York reporters that he has no comment on the Alex Smith situation. But Kirk Cousins is in line to make a lot of money. And you consider the fact that the Vikings are projected to have $57 million. The Browns are projected to have $100 million. I think the Jets are projected to have, $72 million. So there's a possibility that if Kirk Cousins wants to go big or go home, he's going to find a home and the money.
Yeah, I mean, he might actually end up staying here in Minnesota for a much longer time with the way things are going right now. We had to wait for what happened to Alex Smith to know what was going to happen with Kirk Cousins. So these are related pairs and events. We didn't think they would be directly related the way they are, but this is the way it's playing out right now. So you got to take a long look if you're the Vikings. This is an interesting option because we know that he's definitely not returning there in Washington. He probably thought there was about a 25 to 33% chance he was before this. So now that he's totally off the table there, they have to start thinking about him because when you look at Case Keenum versus Kirk Cousins, it's an easy decision who you're going to sign. For comparable prices, I know you're going to pay a little bit more for Kirk, but I think he's going to be worth it for a team that's on the verge of winning something big.
Yeah, you look at the Vikings. First of all, they got to hire a new offensive coordinator. Pat Shermer left for the Giants, and all three of your quarterbacks this year, they're free agents. So Bridgewater, Bradford, and Case Keenum, you have the opening for Kirk Cousins. So, but the Vikings, don't they have to figure out some other things too? They have to figure out the offensive coordinator. They have to figure out if they really want to keep Bridgewater or not. So how could those decisions affect the pursuit of Kirk Cousins?
Well, you look at the Vikings, and I think why it's taking a while to pick the offensive coordinators because you don't have a quarterback. So you got to keep in mind all your options. You got to think about what you saw at the Senior Bowl. You got to think about what you've seen early in scouting quarterbacks. You have to think about the free agent market, about with your pro scouting, who fits your system the best. So all those things are at play in the way they're trying to hire it, and I think that's why there's a delay. And I think the indication that you know that they're going to go aggressively after Cousins if Darrell Bevel's a guy, because West Coast offense, that's what he runs, that's what Kirk Cousins knows, and that'll really make it easier to make that match happen. So a lot of things to watch for. I think if they go to a spread-type system or keep something they have in place, I think there's less likelihood of Kirk Cousins coming there.
You look at Washington acquiring Alex Smith, what I think is an upgrade for the Redskins because Alex Smith, he doesn't turn the ball over as much as Kirk Cousins. I think he has a higher football IQ, and I think you look at Jay Gruden. The quarterbacks he's worked with are Andy Dalton and Kirk Cousins. Both of those quarterbacks, you could argue, Jay Gruden made them both better quarterbacks. And if Alex Smith, who's just coming off of a season where he passed for over 4,000 yards and a completion percentage of 67.5%, I think Alex Smith with Jay Gruden could be a really great match for the Redskins.
Well, to me, it's not really the quarterback in Washington, but the problem is everything else. He had offensive line injuries. He couldn't run the ball. They tried to replace Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson with basically Terrell Pryor and Josh Doxson. Didn't get the same type of help there. Now they're obviously going to move on Pryor from that disappointment. So they're still searching for answers there. And you look at the answers that he had in Kansas City. So I think this could be a big decline here for him. I think they're investing too much in his career season here as he turns 33 here, when there's a lot more evidence to the contrary that he's going to give you a low ceiling as a quarterback. So that's fine. He's going to win games and be steady. But the Redskins should be going for spectacular. The Eagles just made the Super Bowl. The Cowboys were the number one seed in the NFC last year. The Giants are going to have some big changes coming. This just puts you behind in line further than these teams because you're back in stopgap mode. So it's a questionable move from that standpoint when Kirk Cousins, I know he's a little bit more expensive, but 3 years younger, that's not insignificant, especially when you look at all these quarterbacks, Keenum, Cousins, and what you're looking at there are all pretty even at this point.
You mentioned stopgap. So you think that means that Jay Gruden is in this organization, the Redskins, is basically saying we have a window and we're going to try to win in that window, and then after Alex Smith is done, then we'll, maybe retool, rebuild, reload?
Well, I don't really see a window right now for them open. That's why it's a head scratcher, because I don't know how you can say that for the Redskins when you look at the two teams ahead of you that had outstanding seasons. I mean, it's not far from removed, because the Giants just made the playoffs last year as well. It was an 11-5 team when guys were healthy and things were clicking, and now with a new coach, they could have an upward trajectory again. So therefore, I don't understand how they see themselves as being higher than that. But they're going to have a massive overhaul if they're going to do anything with Alex Smith as their quarterback.
When I'm looking at this deal, Vinny, I just don't understand the Redskins' train of thought. I mean, you have a coach in Jay Gruden who, for all intents and purposes, you want to keep around for a while because all the instability in Washington, yet you go with a guy that's 33, going to be 34 to start the season, in a draft where a lot of guys, a lot of NFL people love these quarterbacks, and you're in a position to draft one in the first round and kind of sit him, and then you pay Alex Smith $71 million guaranteed. I just don't understand the Redskins' train of thought.
Yeah, I don't either. They're just kind of threw away the draft pick. They threw away a very good slot corner there in Fuller. So the Chiefs had a big weakness at slot corner the entire season. They proved that. They have now 3 excellent corners that they're putting out there. So you look at that team, and you look at the Redskins. They've already had some issues with overinvesting there in Josh Norman. They're not getting the return on their secondary. They moved a big piece of that secondary away. So I don't understand how they've got better with this move. I think at best they're probably running parallel and trying to find an answer that wasn't quite as expensive as Kirk Cousins. That's what it sounds like to me.
Looking at this game this Sunday with the Eagles and the Patriots, it's kind of like the tale of two different teams. I mean, the Eagles were 7-9 last year with a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback. All of a sudden, they're one of the NFL's elite. Do you believe that this team is here to stay, or is it a Dallas situation where they peaked at the right time and the rest of the NFL will catch up with them?
Well, I think that Dallas, had a bit of a down year with a lot of things that happened there. I don't think they're necessarily gone either. I think definitely Ezekiel Elliott's suspension played a big part in that, some other injuries as well. So I don't think the Cowboys are done. I don't think the Eagles are done either. I think when you have quarterbacks like Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz, that's the biggest thing you've seen here for the consistency and being able to contend. You've seen that with, I know they're not at this level yet, but you see what Aaron Rodgers has become and Russell Wilson. Those are the steady teams. Throwing Matt Ryan in there as well, you're going to have consistent shots in the playoffs if you have that steady, solid play at the quarterback. And that's very hard to find, but that's the thing that can help you overcome a lot of different problems on your team. And with Prescott and Wentz, you've seen a certain it factor where they're not going to be like these guys like Cousins, where they're going to have to lean on a lot of other guys to help them. They're going to be special quarterbacks in their own right.
Vinny, you do a lot of fantasy football writing. I want to ask you, if you're going into your fantasy football season next year and Carson Wentz is on the board, is he one of your first quarterbacks you're looking at after the great year he had this year, or are you worried about the injury?
Well, I'm definitely worried about the injury, and I look at this position as I always want to find the next Carson Wentz. That's how I kind of approach it, that I want to find the Carson Wentz of 2017 in a different form of 2018, because at some point people become values, and at some point they are not values. And I think when you look now, I might look at Dave Cousins lands in Minnesota. He might be the guy that I'm looking at as maybe people overlooking. So you always have to look for that next guy to steal. And there's a durability issue of that position. We saw with Andrew Luck. It can be very frustrating, especially when it's deep and you can wait and find a good value later.
We're talking with Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig, Deshaun Hendricks hanging out with you on the Sports Bash. Vinny, you looking at this game overall, I believe that the two biggest keys for the Eagles, both of them start in the trenches. To me, the Eagles run the ball and their defensive line gets pressure on the Patriots. Those are the keys to running a game, because in the trenches, that's where the Eagles have done most of their winning this year. It's been their offensive line exerting their dominance and the defensive line exerting their type of game on opponents.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to control the game up front. That's what really they've done throughout their season, is they've one on the offensive line, one on the defensive line. I think there's no secret to the formula. That's where the game needs to be won. I think maybe even more so offensively here, because as good as the Eagles' front four pass rush is, we know that Tom Brady is going to beat it, and it's not a team that got a lot of sacks, so he should feel rather comfortable. So I think the offensive line for the Eagles is key, because they can control the game, control the clock. They've got to come up with a Super Bowl 25 type game plan. If they're not going to go out and score 35 and 40 points against the Patriots, then their other plan is still getting a lot of yards, but doing it on the ground and controlling with JHI. So I think Eagles, if Lane Johnson and the rest of this offensive line can take over for the Eagles, then it's going to be very hard for the Patriots to overcome that defensively.
What is your perspective on Doug Peterson? I mean, this is a guy who's coached a team. You know, people overlook the fact that they lost Jordan Hicks, they lost Jason Peters, they lost Carson Wentz, and their best special teams player, Chris Maragos, and arguably one of the best third down weapons in the NFL, Darren Sproles. They have all these injuries, and yet this guy has led this team to a Super Bowl. What is your perspective on the head coach?
I think he probably is now getting the credit he's finally deserving now, because we were all there for the loss of Sean McVay. That makes sense. So then you looked at Sean McDermott leading his team to the playoffs. So we like that. We like these first-year coaches coming through. But sometimes you have to look at a second-year coach. That Peterson improved from year one to year two. He turned into a little bit more aggressive of a play caller. He got guys in place that kind of discovered his team. And sometimes that can also be a Coach of the Year worthy effort. So Peterson's done an excellent job, and I don't think he's going to win Coach of the Year because everyone's been on McVay, and that turnaround is incredible. But in the end, I think he could easily deserve it.
Looking at the Patriots, aside from just Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, those are the guys everybody focuses on. Outside of those two guys, what is the X factor for the Patriots in this game?
Well, I think the X factor really is their pass rush. They have to control and make some things happen in front of Nick Foles. And Trey Flowers is a big factor in last year's Super Bowl, 2.5 sacks, changed the game there against Matt Ryan. So they've got to get guys to step up in the pass rush, whoever they are, to make things happen.
Vinnie Iyer, the Sporting News, joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. Vinnie, we appreciate the time. One more before we let you go. I don't want to ask for your pick. I just want to know from you, what do you think the game could look like? Do you think this game is going to be a low-scoring game, or do you think this could be a game where one team jumps out in front of the other?
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, back and forth. There's a lot of weaknesses on these defenses, especially in the middle of the field. Linebackers, I think that's where they're weak, with no Dante Hightower, no Jordan Hicks. That's where going to be a lot of hay is going to be made here with backs in the passing game, crossing routes, tight ends. That's what's going to get done here on this game. So I think you'll have a lot of passing. The Eagles will run it a little bit better. Patriots will throw it a little bit better. But in the end, that'll lead it to a lot of points.
Follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Iyer. Vinnie Iyer on Twitter. We appreciate your time today, Vinnie. Stay warm up there.
All right, thank you.